Welcome to a Legendarium special about the horrifying world of medieval medicine. In this installment, we will talk about how medieval doctors tried and often failed to save their patients. During the late medieval era, what passed for medicine comprised a mix of astrology, folk magic, church teachings, and actual medical practice. For most people, herbalism and folk magic made up their medical experience. And given that people lived in close proximity to nature, plant and animal-based remedies featured prominently in medicine. Supposedly, parsley cured snake bites, and putting rosemary under one's pillow prevented nightmares. Housewives treated headache and sore joints with a sweet-smelling herb like rose, lavender, or sage. They applied a mixture of henbane and hemlock to aching joints and used coriander to reduce fever. Wormwood, mint, and balms supposedly treated stomach pains. And since lungwort resembled a human lung in shape, the medical community assumed that this herb would treat illnesses of the lung. Such dubious logic governed medieval medicine. The Church often inserted itself into medical practice, with the Fourth Lateran Council forbidding priests above the rank of subdeacon from drawing blood. The Church also forbade priests from cutting into the skin or dissecting corpses. Church doctrine taught that God sent illness to punish people for their sins, which ensured that pilgrimage and prayer also played a role in medicine. Medical knowledge, such as it was, came from ancient texts preserved in monasteries. Medieval people called the ancient Greek physician Galen the medical pope. Ancient Greek medicine believed the body made up of four humors that corresponded to the four earthly elements. These included yellow bile for fire, phlegm for water, black bile for the earth, and blood for the air. An imbalance of humors caused disease, and the body could be purged of these excess humors by bleeding or purgatives. Of course, these harsh measures could often weaken already sick patients. Within the medical profession, one found both barber-surgeons and physicians. In the whole of England during the 14th century, fewer than 100 men actually held medical degrees from universities. Most of that 100 held commissions to serve a certain household or monastery. When Queen Isabella lay on her deathbed in 1358, she had to wait a whole day before her household could even find a qualified physician, and a couple of more days for him to see her. Physicians used observation, palpation, the pulse, and urine examination to make their diagnoses. Urine examination became the most important, with physicians checking the color, looking to see if anything floated in the sample, and even tasting the urine to learn as much as they could. Local legend told of an English physician so knowledgeable that when his highborn patient slipped him the urine of a servant girl to fool him, upon tasting it, the physician jokingly declared his lordship to be pregnant. These physicians used manuals which included details of planetary movements and eclipses of the sun and moon, thought to affect human health. For the body to operate well, all four elements had to be in harmony with no imbalances. Medical physicians believed that the moon had the greatest influence on bodily fluids and could affect the four elements in the body for good or bad. After determining when the illness began and the corresponding location of the sun and moon, the physician brewed a series of concoctions. First, he used a purgative to rid the body of corrupt matter through vomiting, defecation, and urination. Oral purgatives included linseed fried in fat or mallow leaves mixed into ale. For an enema, the physician mixed mallows, honey, salt, and soap, and then injected the mess into the anus using a pig's bladder. Alternatively, the physician opened a vein to perform a bloodletting and determined how much blood to take by the location of the moon and stars. After the ordeal, the physician provided good food, lots of rest, and fortifying drinks to restore the balance of humors. Some medical remedies included charms that required the patient to write something down on a piece of paper, eat that piece of paper, and then drink from a vessel bearing a supposedly magical inscription. Of course, the only way for the poor to ever see a physician involved entering a monastic hospital. If a patient entered such a hospital, they gave up their clothes, put on a smock, and lay in a bed with at least 2 other people in a well-lit hall. There they enjoyed some of the most pleasant amenities of the medieval world, including clean sheets, warm fires, and mutton 3 times a week. Women had their hair washed twice a week, and men's beards received weekly trimmings. Surgeons, the blue-collar counterpart of the physician, could be found more easily and tended to live in the workaday world rather than the halls of power. At least 60 barber-surgeons could be found in the city of York alone, more than half the total number of physicians in England. They kept their shops marked with signs that depicted bandaged and bloody arms, along with bowls of freshly drawn blood in their windows. As their name implies, these barber-surgeons shaved and trimmed beards and hair. But to help pay the bills, they diversified into other knife-based practices, such as letting blood. More specialized and highly trained barber-surgeons staunched bleeding, cauterized wounds, and opened skulls to treat illnesses of the brain. The most high-status surgeons even doubled as undertakers, cutting open bodies to remove organs and then replacing them with herbs and spices. One wonders if medieval patients worried about their doctors doubling as undertakers. Less qualified or even unqualified quacks roamed the countryside, offering their bogus services for a fee. They tended to come up with the most bizarre cures. They treated jaundice by boiling wormwood in water and then washing the patient with it 3 times, before having them drink water mixed with wood shavings. Quacks treated throat infections by removing the innards from a cat, mixing bear fat with honeysuckle gum and virgin wax, then stuffing the disemboweled cat with the mess. Next, they roasted the cat up and ordered the patient to eat it. Though it would be easy to laugh off medieval medicine men as mere quacks, the era did see some real advances, especially with techniques imported from Southwest Asia. Surgeons learned to set broken bones and used trusses to set hernias. Surgeons also used a painful process called needling to remove cataracts. With no anesthetics, the doctor simply inserted a needle into the edge of a person's cornea. John of Ardern became the foremost surgeon of the era, pioneering the radical idea of keeping the surgical room clean. His books became widely copied and distributed by the end of the 14th century, and he also perfected an ancient Arabic technique for curing anal fistula. Some other helpful medicines from the era include the use of garlic, wine, and ox gall to cure infections. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.